Eros's sudden appearance wasn't in a dream but standing in the darkness of my room, his silver eyes gleaming in the night. He not only declared ownership but also left a warning: stay away from James or else. Friday night Smash Rose POV Smash week flew by, filled with pep rallies and games. Dina still seemed a little broken from what Eros did to her, but she was getting better. I drew the protection symbol on her left shoulder, out of sight from prying eyes. Killian seemed to coddle her, protecting his true love. It was sweet how possessive he became, unwilling to let her be alone. He didn't want her to harm herself, but he also didn't know about Eros. Dina wouldn't tell him. I was the only one that knew. Killian only thought she was having nightmares. That was basically true. They were nightmares, only different. When a demon takes hold of your mind, it's like hellfire erupts. You become weak, vulnerable, and terrified. It's like a slice of hell just settled in, and its claws don't want to let you go, no matter how much you thrash, it only making the pain deeper. Your only defense is to let what's happening happen. Speaking of Eros, the last time I saw him, he slapped me across the face hard. When I woke, he was gone and my cheek was bruised. The print of 4 fingers stained across my skin, looking more yellow than purple today. Thank goodness. I didn't have to use as much makeup to cover it this morning. I didn't tell anyone. I couldn't. Dina was my best friend and she was hurting because of me. If I told her what Eros did to me, it would make her pain feel less than important, and I didn't want that. I could handle Eros. I could handle anything. So I kept my mouth shut, put on a brave face, and came to school. Eros wasn't around, causing chaos like usual. It makes me wonder what he's doing. Probably haunting another poor soul. 2 arms wrapped around my shoulders from behind as the bell started ringing, pulling me from my train of thought. Him. James was wearing his Letterman's jacket. Hey gorgeous. He cooed, nuzzling my neck. A giggle coming from my heart. He's too cute. Hey handsome. I copied back, turning in his arms, looking up at his big beautiful blue eyes, looping my arms around his neck. He looked extra dashing today, all decked out in game day clothes. My athlete. You ready? He said, swaying us back and forth a little. I nodded yes, picking up my bag. James dropping one of his arms to walk beside me. Still curled under his thick arm, we walked to his car. That's right, his car. For the past week, Killian and Dina have been inseparable. So Killian has been borrowing his mom's car, taking Dina to and from school, leaving me and James to do as we pleased. I can't say I hated it because in all honesty I loved it. This past week feels like we have been on cloud 9. Not that I would know what that feels like, but I imagine it feels this amazing. I smiled as James turned off onto a deserted road, looking like dust with shaded trees. This little spot became ours every day this past week. He pulled off to the side and turning off his engine. Those big beautiful blue oceans looked at me with want. Unclipping my seatbelt, I crawled awkwardly across his lap, straddling this handsome hunk of mine. I tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. How'd I get so lucky? James uttered, inching his way to my waiting lips. His hands gliding up my bare thighs, wrapping around my bum. With a little squeeze he pulled me closer, causing my body to flush. Just kiss me, I demanded breathlessly before diving against him. Our mouths came together with heat and passion, dancing with love. He was so strong and demanding in his kiss, but sweet as to not be rough. My hands caressed his neck, my fingers slowly running through his trimmed hair. He was so gentle with me, showing me how to take control, going at my pace. All week he let me control how I wanted it. It was such power and trust. I loved it. I loved him. I broke our kiss, gasping for much-needed air, feeling my fade flush under his heated gaze. I affected him just as he affected me. I ran my fingers along his jawline, caressing his chin, my body flush against his, looking down, feeling all of him. In the heat of our passion, a knock hit the passenger window. Our eyes flashed towards the window, seeing a smug-looking Sheriff Randy. A toothpick in his teeth, sunshade slid down the bridge of his nose, and a mean glint in his eyes, looking over the top of its rims. How embarrassing. I felt James tense between my legs, his member thrusting up at his motion. Oh God. I hummed to myself. James rolled the passenger window down, with the flick of his index finger, letting the only barrier between us and Sheriff Randy disappear. James rose. He curtly spoke. I already have bad blood with this guy, over something he thinks I did. I turned my head looking at James's facial profile. Man, is he handsome, I thought, as a bead of sweat dripped down his temple. Sheriff Randy, is there a problem? Asked James calmly. Randy's stance changed, softening a little as James spoke. Why was he here? We haven't done anything wrong. Unless he's watching me. Just checking on you kids. Saw the parked car. Didn't know if it was broke down. He speedily defended himself, placing both his palms on the windowsill. How I wanted to pinch those fingers with the window. I pointedly looked at Randy once again, locking eyes before speaking. As you can see, we are fine. Thanks for checking. I placed my hands once again on James's chest, hoping he would take the hint to kiss me again, making it awkward for Randy. But he didn't. Yeah, thanks, but we are fine. James spoke with a little irritation. Have a good night, Sheriff. James and Randy kept eye contact as if a pissing contest had begun. Well, this mess with my after-school plans. Best get going, don't want to be late for your game tonight. Randy semi-threatened, pushing from the car, fiddling with his toothpick. I took that moment to get off of James, placing my bum back in the passenger seat, clicking my seatbelt. James took the hint and started the car, pulling forward to flip a U-turn. All while James drove, I kept my eyes on Randy. He leisurely walked to his car, resting his backside against his driver's door. What a prick. James drove me home, dripping me with the promise of seeing him after the game. Tonight was game night and my quarterback was starting. I want my winning kiss. He yelled while I shut his door. I just smiled and blew him a kiss goodbye. Time for me to get ready. The crowd erupted in a cheer as the Blue Jays scored another touchdown. James was on fire leading his team. I felt so proud of him. Both Dina and Killian proudly cheering next to me. I had the popular amazing boyfriend, amazing friends, and a brute future. I felt like I was on top of the world. A cheer rang out through the crowd. Here we go, Blue Jays. Here we go. The stands echoing every word, the football field coming alive. If there's one thing I could say about our little town, it's that we have spurt. Crazy good, intense, wild spirit. Dina went a little too crazy, knocking over my soda. Oops. She muttered, her lips turning to a frown. Sorry, got a little excited there. She exclaimed, shrugging her shoulders. I just giggled. She was having fun, coming back to her old self. I wasn't about to ruin her mood over a spilled soda, even though it cost me $4. No biggie. I shouted over the cheers. I will go get another. Want anything? I asked, starting my descent from the bleachers. Dina just smiled and shook her head no, turning her attention back to the game. The score read 20-13 in the third quarter. The student section was on the farthest end from the concessions. So instead of walking in front of the filled bleachers, I elected to go behind, avoiding the crowd's eyes. Seemed like a good idea to me until the lights dimmed. Back here was dark and creepy, butted you to a cornfield. Thanks, farmer, not like I'm scared of children of the corn or anything. I was probably about halfway to the concessions when a rough hand came crashing down against my mouth, muffling my scream from ears that may have heard. His other arm wrapped around my waist, hoisting me off the ground, pulling me into the cornfield, into the dark. I was so scared I was about to die. I tried screaming once more when my fingers cleared his grip, but my scream echoed with the crowd, blending in, hiding my pleas for help. His hand cupped my mouth once more, hauling me deeper to my death. The smell of green corn mixed with sweat and moist soil filled my lungs. The last scent of my life definitely was not a pleasant one. I thrashed, kicked, and clawed at anything I could. When my eyes finally adjusted to the darkness, did I see a clearing. My body, once held tight against my captors, was forcefully thrown to the ground. My head hitting a rock maybe. I felt dizzy and lightheaded, grumbling on the soil. My captor taking this time to tie my ankles together, then roughly yanking my wrist, tying them as well. The burns rubbed along my flesh. Oh God. It's him. The killer. I'm going to die. He threw a bag over my head, blocking my sight before dumping my body in a car. I think I'm in the trunk. God, if you can hear me, please save me. I whispered to my savior. Big trouble. The ride was rough, and the air felt stuffy as I rolled around the trunk. My head hit with a thud as the car came to a halting stop. I heard footsteps shuffling around until the latch clicked, and a rush of cool air hit me. His harsh grip vice locked around my upper arm, painfully yanking me. My body slammed into his chest, his juggling hands throwing me over his shoulder. Oof! Air escaping my lungs. The black bag dangled from my head, slowly sliding down, giving my eyes a glimpse of the backside of my captor. He had on a black leather jacket, a white shirt hem just underneath. His dark blue jeans looked tight on his legs, leading down to thick black laced boots. My head felt full, the blood rushing to my brain. I heard the clinking of a latch before I saw a red door, a cellar door. The smell of mint attacked my senses, giving a rush of realization. This all felt so familiar, the red door, the smell of mint and musk. This was Sage's vision she showed me. The day she took my breath away. The sound of a wood chair scratched across the floor. My body lurched backward, hitting the cold, hard concrete. A sharp pain rushed through my body. My shoulder, taking most of the blow, felt numb from my hand being tied behind my back. The black bag, secure over my head, stopped any and all sight. Loud footsteps echoed, alerting me of his movements. Next thing I know, my body's being lifted and pushed onto a chair. A rope securing my chest upright. The rope felt so tight, my chest burned with every breath. Gasping for the little air allowed to me, I tried to catch my breath. I could feel his hand firmly grip the top of the back sack. When he yanked up, his grip tore at the roots of my hair, taking what felt like a chunk out of my scalp. I cried out as my eyes tried to focus. The man standing before me was none other than Ghoulish. His eyes held such anger, while his fist tightened along his sides. Ghoulish, I said, gazing into the eyes of a murder. A wave of shock hit me like a ton of bricks. He didn't say a word, his fist decided to do the talking. A punch across my left cheek sent my jaw snapping. The taste of blood coated my tongue, my cheek burning. I felt the inside of my cheek, swiping my tongue over the gashes my teeth created. I looked back into his eyes, unpleased with his punch. His other fist smashed against my right cheek. The pain became too much for me, my eyes welling with tears. Sobs of distress echoed in the basement. I pleaded and begged for him to stop. The blood filled my mouth. Please, Ghoulish, stop. I bellowed. Why? This only fueled his fire as his fist lurched back, ready to kill. The last thing I felt was a black hole exactly where my nose was. Desira. My head felt heavy, my nose throbbed with pain. My mouth aches as a warm liquid fills the empty cavern. I blinked a few times, trying to bring my eyes to focus. I felt restrained, unable to move. My hands bound behind my back, my ankles tied together. I tried to lean forward only to be stuck in place. What the hell? His voice took me from my thoughts. Desira. Ghoulish asked hastily. He looked down at me, his eyes showing hope. Ghoulish, what the fuck? I'm not a hummingbird, stupid. I sassed, creating a wide smile stretch across his face. Get me the hell out of these, I commanded, struggling in the ropes. Ghoulish obliged, untying my feet first, then my chest. I stood, turning for him to release my hands. He did so, then turned me, engulfing me in a hug. I'm sorry I had to, he whispered to my ear. What was he going on about? I looked at my face with a broken mirror on the wall. I looked disheveled, my hair is a mess, my cheeks a dark shade of purple. But worst of all, my nose was crooked. That son of a bitch broke my nose. I pushed off of him, yelling furiously. What the hell? Why couldn't you wait for Dad? Ghoulish stepped back, lowering his head. His next words mumbled from his lips in a quiet tone. His eyes cast to the floor, not liking my anger-filled words. Dad's away and I needed to talk to you. I walked to the mirror, lightly touching my nose. Pain shot to my eyes, pressure welled behind them. I took a deep breath, placing 2 fingers on each side of my nose. Pushing painful quick, a crunch sounded, a scream left my lips. My tears fell freely, casting down my face. Man, did that hurt. What was so important you could wait for Dad to inject me? I asked him, examining my now straighter bridge. I wiped my cheeks, my eyes no longer tearing. The sheriff, he's getting closer. He stated as a matter of fact. Is asked, annoyed. It's his job. He's tracing killing all the way back from the start. He told me, afraid of what the future holds. Back when Dad started. He uttered. Shit. That means he's going to trace every murder back to us. Where's Dad? I fired. Lucius looked at me, shrugging his shoulders. If Dad has gone, then he knows we have to do something. Call Dad, leave a voicemail. Tell him the nest is empty. Lucius pulled out his phone, calling Dad, leaving the message. I watched as he paced back and forth, worried. I can't believe Jack retired from the kill, leaving his legacy to Lucius. I face-palmed myself, watching the idiot unravel. He wasn't cut out for this. Eshma should just cut him loose. It's his fault they're tracing Sage back to us in the first place. That dumbass let Sage get away. We had to traipse through the willow, searching for her. That stupid girl ran, only causing her death swifter. I tracked her to the ridge, carefully watching her trembling body. She was practically naked on a cool summer night. She looked out over the lake, searching for a way out. When she turned to run back into the forest, I leaped into the air, crashing down on top of her small, fragile figure. She struggled against my hold, screaming for help. I pinned her left arm under my knee, then cupped her right wrist, pinning it to the forest floor. Taking my right hand, I thrust my hand against her throat, digging my finger and thumped deep into her neck, stopping all airflow from reaching her lungs. She whimpered and struggled, her body thrashing under my grip, choking her. This was too easy. She was weak, held for almost the whole summer. She was Lucius's kill, only this dumbass was growing attached. That's the only reason he let her live this long. Her body began to falter, the fight in her coming to a halt. I looked down, making sure our eyes connected. I was the last person she would ever see. A memory burned into her eyes, a sight she would take to her grave. I watched as her last breath left her lips, the pain in her glossed eyes leaving. She was dead. And she was my first kill. First real kill, not that dumb dog Rose cried over. This was so much more. Such a rush. I was the true killer. Not Lucius. Me. Lucius came out of the brush, looking angry, then sad to see Sage's lifeless body. With little time to dispose of the body, we wrapped her in a black tarp with the ropes Lucius used earlier on me. Wasn't the best plan, but this was our only option. The sun was coming up and we needed to disappear. After tying the last knot, securing her to the cinder block, we pushed her over the cliff, watching her body sink to the lake floor. We took off into the woods. I felt a sense of calm wash over me. This was fun. I will have to try again. Lucius and I made it back to the house, fighting about his hummingbird, about where we dumped her, and the evidence we left behind. It was only I who needed to worry. I would figure out a way to explain why my DNA was on her body. I will find a way. Getting close. Sheriff Randy POV. It's Friday night. I should be at the local high school game, showing my support for our quaint little community, cheering on the Salix Blue Jays, watching my high school alma mater win yet another home game, but more importantly, keeping my eyes on Rose Violence. Something about her just doesn't sit right with me. I have known her whole life. She's always been so trusting of everyone, curious and innocent. Just like the little girl all those years ago. She hasn't changed one bit. Always the same sweet and sassy 6-year-old, staying out of trouble, going to church until lately, that's why I need to watch her. Make sure she doesn't end herself in a problematic situation. I knew when I arrested her the evidence wouldn't stick. I just needed her to answer my questions. I needed her parents to know what she fell into. They see me as their son's friend. That's fine. But it's my job to catch a killer, and Rose needed to stay far away. But instead I'm here trying to figure out a puzzle. Staring at a storyboard, drinking my 4th cup of coffee. After my 3rd cup I hadn't bothered with sugar. The dark roast permanently stained to my tongue, bitter with every sip. The caffeine seems to calm my nerves, oddly. Must be a jitter thing, I'm always on the go. Coffee keeps me awake and focused. Bouncing my sight from peg to peg, connecting clues as the evidence unfolds. Evidence started to unfold, starting with the murders back in 1993. The first sighting of teen girls murdered and buried in their hometown. All blonde hair, blue eyes, wearing white tanks in just their underwear. Hands and ankles bound, left to rot in a shallow grave. Our first clue: DNA on all the victims. Only forensics back then couldn't seem to match any in the database. He continued to killing until 1998, or so though, since that was the last body found. The case files soon became cold. leaving all those families wounded, fearful, and scorned. Until last week. Last week God decided to give us a clue. After going over the evidence from Sage's death, I noticed similarities between the two cases. Sage matched the description of the other girls perfectly. The only difference, she was found in water, leading me to the lake. Why would someone dump a body on the jumping cliff of Willow Lake? Possibly because they wanted the body found. Maybe. I pondered before coming back to my conclusion. Jack Finley's lake house was the only one close enough to the crime scene. Sage ran barefoot through the forest, dying of asphyxiation. She couldn't have run far. Jack's home was the closest. Forensics found Rose's DNA, Mint, and another's DNA. Small bruising under Sage's jawline causing her death. Rose gave me the locket with a picture of a hummingbird on the inside. The fingerprints found on that were of both Rose's and some black smudge. The things that she started saying, talking about evidence unreleased to the public. Sage's clothing, the rope burns, her brushing. Rose knew things only the killer would know. So I started to watch her closer. Rose found the body, so that explains her DNA. Leading me back to Dr. Finley. I took a sample of his DNA found at the hospital, swiping an old water cup. After running his DNA, it matched the murders of 1993 to 1998. We got the son of a bitch. A judge signed a warrant for his arrest. We went to both his house and work, finding out he skipped town, telling the hospital he needed vacation time. He was on the run, making his house evidence. At his house, I found the same kind of mint that was found on the scene. The same mint found with Sage's body. The smell so strong, it covered the stench of blood that was just behind the red cellar doors. The one place no one considered looking, a doctor's basement, where he hid, tormented, and raped those girls. Also found was more of Sage's DNA. She was held there. The scene showing she fought for her life. A very brave girl she was. But tonight I was waiting for the DNA to match Dr. Jack Finley to Sage Spiritine's death. My phone rang, distracting me from my thoughts. Sheriff Randy speaking. I muttered, still in train of thought. Hey Randy, it's Lucy from the Montgomery County Forensics. She sounded chipper. Hey Lucy. Got good news for me. I rushed. She pondered for a second before speaking. My guess to scan over the results one last time. Yeah, we just finished up on the DNA tests. Tracing to an unknown person. She drew out her answer, thinking to herself, Dear. Jack Finley's DNA wasn't found on Sage's body. Interesting. I told her, taking in the fact that Jack didn't kill Sage. But someone else did. Damn. I thought I had him. Yeah, but here's where it gets interesting. Although the DNA isn't Jack's, I compared the unknown DNA to his, just for shits and giggles. Turns out the DNA is so close it's more than likely an offspring. She informed me. Thanks, Lucy. I fired back, almost hanging up the phone, processing that Jack has a child, who is probably following in the footsteps of the father, until I hear her yell, stopping me from hanging up. I placed the phone back to my ear. What? I asked. Randy, the DNA found on Sage's body was Rose's, and the DNA matching Finley's. But here's the thing. Rose's DNA matches Finley's and the unknown's as well. Meaning Dr. Finley is Rose's father. She hushed out, drawing her conclusion as if a secret for only us to hear. Rose was Dr. Finley's daughter. That can't be. I watched her grow up. Her older brother was my best friend. I remember giving her piggyback rides and playing hide and seek with the sweet little girl. I only thought her suspicions, because of the DNA found on Sage's body, and the fact Rose has Sage's locket. Without saying goodbye, I hung up the phone. The click, signaling the call ended, was the only thing heard in our dead office. Finley was gone, but she was still here. And who is this unknown child of Jack's? When Joe talked to me in church last Sunday, that must have been the reason why the said Rose was going through a tough time. She must have found out Finley was her father. It all makes sense. Whoever killed Sage was Jack's kid. That's the person I'm looking for. Rose is going to tell me, after all. She did say, when you start connecting dots, come find me. Well, Rose, you got your wish. 'Cause I know your sibling is the killer. Loving him. Oh God, my head hurts. My face feels like I ran into a door. It took me a second to get my bearings, feeling my surroundings. I was laying down, something soft under me. I felt warm, something plush covering me. But my face stung like 1,000 jellyfishes zapping me. Before opening my eyes, I took a deep breath. The last thing I remember was Lucuas's fist hitting my face. Slowly, opening my eyes, squinting at the bright lights. Wait a minute. I looked around, holding the covers draped over my body. This is my bedroom. What am I doing in my bedroom? Did Lucas drop me off? Did my parents see anything? How do I make my face stop throbbing? I silently sobbed, brushing my fingertips against my bruised cheek. My hair felt wet, placed in a bun on top of my head. Taking a peek under the covers, a large t-shirt covered my body. I panicked, feeling for underwear. Thank the heavens the cotton was snug. I stood on wobbly legs, stumbling to my closest. I took the cold handle, steadying myself. Opening the door, I took a step back, shocked at the face staring back at me. Lucas did a number on my once beautiful face. How on earth am I going to explain this? Both my cheeks painted a dark purple, specks of blue, outlining fingerprints. The bridge of my nose looked puffy, blending into the under of my eyes. I looked like I was hit by a train, but I smelt nice. Wait, did I take a shower? This is all so overwhelming. Why did Lucas hit me? Why don't I remember taking a shower? Why won't my face stop hurting? The look of my face gave me chills. I was going to need so much makeup to even look normal. When my phone went off and a tidal wave of missed calls and text lit up the screen, I sat at my desk chair starting to read the text. Dina, you almost done? Is the line that long? Why you not answering me? Where did you go? I'm starting to freak. Where did you go? I read through each of her texts, feeling guilty for not replying. What was I supposed to tell her? Hey Dee, sorry. Was kidnapped and beat up last night. By my biological brother. Yeah, that would go over nicely. I rolled my eyes to myself, then read on. Killian, could you grab me a Coke? Where you at? Rose. Answer one of us. Dina's going crazy. Just let us know you are okay. Killian's messages made me feel even worse. I wonder what they did when I didn't reply. In the moment I wasn't even thinking about my phone. Just confused and hurt. Lucas did that to me. I guess blood isn't always best. After reading their messages, I went to my voicemail. I had 16 missed calls from Dina and 5 from Killian. My mother left a message telling me she and Dad would be out late. I'm guessing they agent to the bar with friends after the game. Lucas took me and not a soul knew it. He covered my head, bound my hands and feet, then threw me in a trunk. Maybe he's the killer. Maybe he's the one who killed Sage. From her vision and our last encounter, it would explain everything. The basement, the mint, the sound of his footsteps. All of it. I felt what she felt. Trapped, helpless and scared for my life. Lucas was a monster and I needed to prove it. Thinking of a plan to get Lucas, my phone started to ring. James. I looked at the screen and panicked. What was I going to say? Deciding it was best to answer, I swiped right, answering his call. Hey. I said a bit louder than necessary. Great. That's not suspicious. Hey, where were you last night? I waited for you after the game. He said, a little worry in his tone. Killian and Dina said you went for a soda and vanished. Quickly lied. I didn't feel good, so I walked home. Dropped my phone in a puddle so I couldn't text anyone. That's a good one. Please believe that. Oh, are you feeling better? He sounded so sweet. Yes, I lied. Feeling much better. I fibbed again. Great. Would you like to get some fresh air with me? He asked, the tone in his voice longed to see me. Sure, pick me up in an hour. I asked, trying to give myself time to fix my face. Sounds good. He chirped. See you soon, beautiful. He chanted before hanging up the call. I scurry from my chair, heading to my bedroom door. Slowly peeking out to see if the coast was clear. My parents must be sleeping or gone because all was silent in the Violence house. Taking off to the bathroom, I was going to need every second of time to fix this face and find a cute outfit for James. By the time I was done, my skin looked as blemish-free as the Mona Lisa. Thank the heavens I was an artist because this was definitely a challenge. I looked like me with just a little more makeup than usual. I took some painkillers as soon as I started. Now I feel little to no pain. Thank you, God. Because with all the blending and brushing, I'm sure I would have been screaming. Bringing my damp hair out of its top bun, I fish braided it to the side. Heading for my room, a ding sounded on my phone. James, on my way. I frantically tossed the clothes sitting in my clutter chair, searching for the perfect walking outfit. When I found some cute jean shorts and a periwinkle dress top. A little skimpy, but I didn't mind, it was for him. This would be perfect. The doorbell rang as I slipped the shirt over my head. I hoped down the stairs with a little pep in my step, answering the door to see James looking handsome as ever, dressed in coyote khaki shorts and a goofy top navy blue with pink flamingos scattered. I giggled, looking him up and down. "What? This shirt is awesome." He smiled, smirkingly confident in his choice. I just smiled and shook my head, coming in for a hug. He's such a goofball when he wants to be. My hands wrapped his waist while his hands cuddled mine. I rested my fish braid against his shirt to not ruin my makeup. His chin rested on the top of my head when I felt him take a deep breath, smelling my hair. So I did the same to his chest, smelling his intoxicating cologne. I felt so loved in that moment, feeling the same passion he was. I pulled my head back, staring into his big, beautiful ocean eyes. Pushing to my tiptoes, I used his body for support, reaching my lips up to caress his. My face hurt, but at this moment they felt numb. This kiss was different, it was more, as our lips captured one another, almost like a soft peck with overwhelming emotions. I pulled back, taking a deep breath, ready for this moment, saying the 3 words my heart felt in that very second. The 3 words said to the one who would always be there for you. The one you felt the most safest around, the one you wanted to spend your forever with. He looked at me with affection, and his eyes filled with glory. The words escaped my lips as a soft whisper. "I love you." My eyes bounced back and forth, looking deep into his, seeing if he felt the same. When a smile as wide as the seas graced his face, he pulled me closer, lifting me from the ground, spinning with glee. I shrieked, startled by his excitement. He slowly sat me down, my feet softly touched the floor once more. He looked to me with adoration and amusement. "I have loved you since the 3rd grade. He lied. This was my happily ever after. He was my happy ending. The walk. James and I walked hand in hand to his Mustang. He opened my door for me, then walked to his side and took his seat. His face still lit like a diamond shimmering in the sun. His smile was so infectious, I couldn't help but be just as happy as he. He loved me, and for a long time, I was just so blinded I never stopped to take a good look. A look at the boy who has always been there, watching in the background. The friend zone. His hand slipped under my palm, interlocking our fingers. The hair on his arm tickled my thigh, making me shiver. The car windows were down, allowing the wind to ruffle his blonde hair. His blue eyes showing a hint of amusement. He knew how he made me feel, and he was lavishing in it. I smiled, rolling my eyes playfully. This boy. He drove us till we stopped at the one place I wouldn't have thought. A place holding happy and sad memories for me. We came back to Willow Lake. The place I died, the place James saved me. A lake of death, but also of love. Just to the right sat the ridge we climbed. Memories of Eros and Eshma clouding my thoughts, until I remember James's lips caressing mine, our first kiss. This place held so many memories, good and bad. But most importantly, all of my good memories are of James. He opened my door, taking my hand. He's so old-fashioned, and I'm absolutely positively in love with it. We started our walk, heading to one of the trails. It started out paved like the sidewalks, but the farther we went, the path turned into the beautiful nature that surrounded it. Willow trees lined the forest, guiding the path leading up to the jumping cliff. The path we took just before I stopped breathing. "You okay?" James asked, squeezing my hand in his. "Yeah," I answered him, with a slight hesitation in my voice. "This place just has a lot of memories." I went on, describing my gut feelings. "I know," was all he said in a sweet, soft voice, almost filled with love and sorrow. This place held the same memories he had. The moment he jumped in, saving me. Seeing the dead body latched to my leg. Performing CPR on my breathless chest. But also our first date, our first kiss. Our first fight. My subconscious liked to add. This lake meant the same to him as it did me. Our beginning, though it's dark, bloomed into something beautiful. Our forever. "You look so beautiful in the sun." James admires, biting his lip. I hadn't noticed the closer we came to the edge, the more the sun peeked through the trees. It was a beautiful day, and he said the right thing at the right time. I felt my cheeks heat, causing the flush to tint my complexion. But he couldn't see from the cake of makeup covering damage. I wonder if he saw the ugly, how he would feel about it. If he would run and avoid me at all costs like the plague. Or if he would cradle me, cupping his wide hand on the back of my head, pressing me deep into his chest so that I would never feel pain again. I choose the latter. James has always been the gentleman. Kind, strong, protective, even though I'm a girl who can handle her own. You look pretty handsome yourself, I added, still feeling the heat in my cheeks. We walked to the edge, his hands cradling my hip next to his. A tight squeeze molding me to his figure, the perfect puzzle piece. I'm not one to think so clutch, but we were made for each other. Everything he did made me feel special. Every second I was with him, the world stopped spinning. The two of us looked out onto the lake, the sun hitting the water perfectly. The shimmering ripples looked so calming, with the colors of blue and green covering its surface. This lake looked more like the ocean than the dirty moss you would normally see. James held me tighter, distracting my thoughts. That day still haunts me, he admits with a whisper. Taking my eyes to his, he looked down at me. His handsome blue eyes glossed. It broke my heart to know I was the one who caused his hurt. Me too, I admitted. My life changed that day. He looked out to the water once more, beginning to speak, averting his eyes to hide the tear gliding down his cheek. I thought I lost you before I even had the chance to be with you, he confessed. I watched you take your last breath, he mumbled, still holding his eyesight to the water, unwilling to show me his tears, to be strong like the man he thinks I need. I turned my body, slipping my hand to his cheek, gently turning his scared, sorrow-filled eyes to look at me. I then ran my other hand to his hair, brushing my finger through his mane. Smiling. I'm here, I softly spoke. Because of you. I continue, with both hands on his cheeks, forcing him to focus on me and only me. Because you did what others wouldn't have. I inched closer to his face. I mean, who learned CPR as a freshman? I joked, trying to lighten his mood. Mere inches from his lips, I stood on my tiptoes, closing the gap. I could feel the smile on his lips as mine mimicked his. Good, he took my joke. I hate seeing him filled with hurt. It breaks my heart. When he pulled back, a smile reached his red eyes, tears no longer bluing his vision. He looked amused at what he was about to say. I mean, how else was I going to kiss a girl? He playfully asked, making me giggle. Boys, so you took CPR to kiss a girl? I asked, arching my brow, pursing my lips in a playful manner. Well, yeah, and to lifeguard, of course. He smirked. Keeping the mood light and fun, I slid my hands from his neck to his sides, stopping just above the crest of his hip bone, when a sly smile graced my lips, alerting the bells in his brain. Starting to tickle him as much as I could, his louder-than-life laughter filled the air. You know you love someone when you hear that laugh. It doesn't bother you one bit to hear it all day. My tickles only lasted a few seconds before his strong arms grabbed my wrists, pushing them down. Halting my attack, his hands were so big, his thumb overlapped his fingers, firmly holding me still so he could catch his breath. He looked at me with mischief in his eyes. My turn, he cooed, pulling me flush to his body, locking me in place in his arms. His hands slowly walked to my sides, lightly pressing with each poke. The anticipation of his tickle was making me squirm. Stop. I smiled, giggling, and wait. He took that as the moment to start tickling me ferociously, almost dropping me to the ground. If he hadn't been holding me, I would have gone crashing. But he held me, tickling until my laughter became breathless. I lightly pushed from him, slapping his chest. Meanie, I squealed, making him chuckle. Come on, there's something else I want to do, he said, walking back the way we came. I hurried up next to him, checking my shoulder to his lower arm, starting a pushing contest to erupt. He lightly shrugged his shoulder, causing me to move slightly. He's so strong. It was good fun until my foot stepped wrong on a rock, causing me to fall into the tree line. It wasn't his fault, just my clumsiness. But what happened a few seconds later made my head hurt. The last thing I saw was the shock on James' face, feeling guilt. The blinding darkness pulled me into the pits of a maze. Desira, meet James POV. I watched as Rose fell into the tree line. I didn't mean to nudge her that hard. I thought it was soft, but I guess I was mistaken. I immediately jumped to her side, taking in her little figure. She had blood saturating her hairline, making me panic, checking for her pulse. Thank the Lord it was there and strong. My poor Rose must have blacked out when her head hit the ground. I knelt down next to her unconscious body, cradling her in my lap. I didn't want to move her too much, afraid of hurting her more. How could I have been so rough with her? I was raised better than that. I took my cell phone from my back pocket. Opening the lock screen, I started to dial Killian. Only my phone started to beep. No service, damn it. Putting my phone back in my pocket, I noticed Rose's eyes started to move. Not in a flutter open kind of way, but rapidly moving back and forth. Freaking out a little, I slowly placed Rose back on the ground. Her head gently leaned to the side. Maybe she has a concussion or a brain bleed. Maybe this was her body's reaction to the trauma. I started to think maybe if I walked back to the cliff I would get cell service. Before leaving Rose's side, her eyes shot open. Looking up to the treetops, she took in her surroundings. Like she didn't realize where she was. Her beautiful green eyes locked with mine. Only the gaze she held was not one I liked. Her demeanor looked angry, her eyes held pure hate. This girl standing before me looked nothing like my Rose. It scared me. I jumped to my feet, carefully watching as she too stood. Rolling her shoulders back, she circled her neck, stretching. Like she was getting ready for a fight, a physical fight. Rose doesn't do that. She lets her mouth fight her battles. She took a step towards me, so I took one back. What's wrong with her? Did she hit her head too hard and get amnesia? Rose, are you all right? I asked calmly, not wanting to set her off. When she took another step forward, I retreated. I didn't want to fight her, it's my fault she feels this way. Until she spoke, catching me off guard. Not sounding at all like the Rose I love. James. She taunted, sizing me up. I don't know what she sees in you. She spat, sounding like a viscous animal. I asked her once again, Rose, are you all right? Hoping she would come out of whatever this is. When she laughed a menacing laugh, filling the forest surrounding us. I needed to get to the top of the cliff, make a call to 911. Something is very wrong, what have I done? James, what you failed to see. She paused for dramatic effect. Filled with drama, not my Rose. I am not your Rose. She cooed, enjoying her own show. While she was enthralled with herself, I took a step towards the cliff. But she noticed, sidestepping me. Rose, I think something's wrong, you hit your head pretty hard. I tried reaching out to her yet again, only to be laughed at. Weren't you listening? She sassed, taking another step. I'm not your Rose. Not my Rose. I'm so confused. What is she talking about? Then who are you? I asked, wondering what she was going to say. When she took another step, positioning herself uphill from me, an arm's length away. What is she doing? She grinned a wicked smile, slowly revealing her teeth. That was beyond creepy and very out of character for Rose. What did she do? Hit her head and start thinking she was the Wicked Witch of the West. Then her body came flying at me, her hands pushing firmly against my chest, knocking me off my feet, sending me tumbling. This hill wasn't exactly steep, but I was rolling, until my back landed hard, and a deep pressure pulses in my chest, knocking the wind out of me until all I felt was pain. My brain didn't register until my eyes saw. My body lay flush with a downed tree. A small branch pierced my right chest. A scream of pure agony left my lips. My chest burned with every breath I tried to take. Like razor blades were scratching my skin. I could feel the blood pooling in the back of my throat, silencing my screams. I held the branch protruding from my chest. It sliced through me like a knife to butter. The only thing on my mind was help. I tried reaching my back pocket, only to be hauled by the pain of shifting. When my eyes shifted to Rose sauntering down the path, I tumbled. Not an ounce of hurry in her step. Not a smidge of worry on her face. Not a pinch of love left in her eyes. This wasn't my Rose. When she neared me, she crouched to my heaving chest. Her finger lining the branch, coating her tip in my blood. She looked like pure evil, the devil reincarnated. Standing before me. Believe me now. She mocked, pushing her finger on the side of the branch, causing pain to explode. A trickle of blood dripping from my mouth. I knew there wasn't much time when I tasted the metallic on my tongue. She took the finger stained with my blood to her lips. her tongue darting out to taste the iron as she raped her lips around her finger, closing her eyes as if enjoying the taste like a chocolate bar. Each of my breaths became more shallow, and with each breath my eyes became darker. I was going to die by the hands of the one I loved. A cruel fate for a boy just starting to become a man. How could she do this to me? I coughed, spitting blood. Why? I asked with a graveled voice. She smiled at me, enjoying the view, a red tint still on the inside of her lips. Well, James, you see, I don't like you, she stated as if not caring. You keep taking Rose away from the one I desire, she hissed, continuing. My name is Desira and Eros is the one I want. So you see, Rose and the stupid church boy jock keep getting in the way of that. I had my afterlife made, being both Eshma and Eros' plaything. But then you just had to swoop in and screw it all up. Her voice was so so full of hate for me. I didn't understand what she was saying. Besides, there's a new hummingbird and it's me. She hissed, more to herself, boasting in pride. What? I gagged. Oh, that's right. You don't know. He smirked condescendingly. Dear, Jack Finley is my father. And also the killer. Well, I killed Sage. She rushed, shocking me. Rose killed Sage. Well, Lucuas was the killer until I killed him, she added with a smile. Who's Lucuas? He wasn't cut out to be a killer. Too weak, too pathetic. Father should have killed him as a child. But instead I had to clean up his mess. The mess he left behind, the children he skipped town without. That asshole. She wasn't making sense to me. My eyes started to feel heavy and my body began to shiver, feeling as if ice coated my skin. An ice bath washing away any warmth that once was. It won't be long now, she cooed. Would you like to see Rose before you die? She asked, pushing out her bottom lip as if pouting. I couldn't speak, my mouth filled with the little blood I had. She took a step back, picking up a heavy rock. When you die, I want her to watch. She smirked, smashing the rock so hard against her head, I thought her brains would come out. Her body fell to the forest floor. My breathing became small pants. It was getting harder and harder to breathe. I couldn't move, I could barely see. My heart that once sounded like a drum became faint. Rose's body began to stir. She sat up, clutching her head, her hands saturated with blood. When she saw me, her eyes, I could tell by her eyes. The pain, the panic, her frightened face. She screamed my name, but I could hardly hear her. Her hands caressed my face, but I could barely feel them. Her tear-stained cheeks were all I could see. I could feel her sorrow, I could feel her confusion. With the little strength I had, I placed my hand to the back of her head. Guiding her closer to my face, I did the last thing I would ever do. I kissed her lips, stained in my blood. I kissed her lips, sending me to heaven, saying goodbye. My soul felt empty, like my heart felt like death. As my tear-stained face looked upon the only love I have ever known, I brushed his forehead, smoothing his hair to the side. His skin was still warm to the touch. My stomach turned, and my emotions began to overload. Feeling pain, shame, confusion, frustration, despair, sadness. My brain not able to understand what I was feeling, making me numb. I stood, walking to the cliff, dialing 911. Everything became a blurry mess in my head. Watching as people scurried around me, a warm embrace took hold of my shoulders. When was a blanket placed on me? When did I get to the hospital? I felt like the world around me was moving at a speed, unbeknown to me. While I saw lips moving I was unable to hear. The words spoken around me had fallen on deaf ears. I was numb. It wasn't until I felt the embrace of my mother, the smell of her jasmine cherry shampoo, pulling me back to reality. I nuzzle my nose deeper into her hair, breathing, hoping to wake up and this to all be a dream. When I felt my father's arms wrap around my figure, did I truly understand this was a nightmare? One I wouldn't awaken from. This was my life's reality. Finally opening my eyes, seeing my family surround me, I took a shaky breath, not wanting to cry anymore. But the pain of losing James was too much, making my breath hitch, a silent sob, my voice hoarse and my eyes too dry to tear. When Randy stepped into view behind the curtain, "Rose, what happened?" he asked in a tone I haven't heard since I was a child. My family parted for him to walk closer to me, examining my face. He gripped my chin, turning my face side to side, his eyes roaming my flesh, looking at my complexion. I'm sure to his eyes I looked like I was hit by a truck. But to me I felt nothing. No pain, no hurt. I couldn't shed another tear. I just looked into his eyes, pulling me back to the time as a little girl. The older boy always picking me up and dusting me off after a fall. He looked pained, maybe even guilty. When he released my chin, he took a step back, talking to my parents. I didn't care what he had to say, I only wanted this to end. I haven't even noticed my brothers, standing on each side of me, both squeezing my shoulders as a symbol of our love. But I felt nothing. Unable to give them the love they gave me. The nurse came in, cleaning my cuts, the makeup on my face washed away, revealing the bruises that lay beneath. I'm sure now that's what Randy was looking at. My tears must have created lines of clarity, showing through my cheeks. My mother gasped, looking at my face in horror, while the males of my family all clenched their jaws. But I didn't care, I felt nothing. Days had passed and the police ruled James's death an accident. Since my head was so badly injured, amnesia was my best option. I had no idea what happened anyway, so it wasn't hard to fake. I blacked out, then came to and my love was dying. Randy said we must have tripled tumbling down. I was lucky James wasn't. But today I lay in bed, not crying but just laying, wrapped in the covers, unmoved for days. I hadn't showered since I can't remember. I hadn't seen the sun since that day. I had no desire to live but just be. Like every emotion just turned off. Dina came to see me today. Like she did every day. Laying in the bed next to me. Just laying, she didn't force me to talk. She was just there if I wanted to. But today was different. Today she gently pulled the covers from me, helping me sit up for the first time today. What is today? What time is it? I looked at my digital clock, reading 1:20 p.m. Why was she making me move? Dina helped me to stand, leading me to the bathroom. It's not like I was hurt physically, but I was broken mentally. I just didn't care anymore. When she turned the shower on, I knew what she wanted. So I undressed while she turned around, giving me privacy. Not a word was spoken, but she knew I needed her. Our soul sister kinda thing, just a feeling. After lazily washing my hair and body, I shaved, even though I didn't want to. I knew if I didn't, Dina would make me. Turning the water off, the curtain stayed closed and my towels were flung over the top. I wrapped my hair, then dried my body, tucking the corner of the towel against my chest, securing the hold, before stepping out of the shower. I met Dina's gaze, standing next to the sink. She already had a toothbrush and a pea-sized paste waiting for me. I brushed my teeth while Dina dried my hair. She was dressed in a black dress and flats. She looked pretty but sad. Seeing my face for the first time in the mirror, my brushing changed color, looking like a green-yellow tint coating my face. I didn't care though, no reason to hide it anymore. But Dina began applying makeup, covering my face, rolling me up. For what reason? Everything seemed pointless now. After she finished my hair and makeup, she guided me back to my room. Leaving me standing by my bed, she went to my closet. She only disappeared for a few seconds, before walking out with a black dress. Dangling from her hands, a pair of black flats. She lay both on the bed, heading to my dresser, pulling out a black set of undergarments. Placing them on the bed, she left my room, giving me privacy to change. I did, taking a look at myself in my closet mirror. I was ready. So I opened my door, to see both my mother and Dina. A look of sorrow painted upon their faces. While I looked dead inside like I felt, Dina linked her elbow with mine, escorting me down the stairs and to the door. A limousine lay waiting with its rear door wide open. A suited man standing beside the vehicle. The only time I have ever worn black and seated in a limousine was at my grandmother's funeral. If this was James's funeral, I didn't want to be here. I wasn't ready. Ready to say goodbye. I stopped dead in my tracks, haunting Dina's stride. When I spoke, my voice sounded foreign, unheard of since that day. I'm not ready, I whispered. Dina's eyes shed a tear, showing me the pain she felt. Seeing me like this. Going to our friend's, my beloved's, funeral. I'm not either, she whispered back, pulling me to the car. I followed, too weak to fight. My family followed behind me, all squeezing into the car. Killian, also in a suit and tie, joined our car. His eyes beat red, his nose running with a tissue glued to his hand. The poor guy lost his best friend. He was hurting like me, but he could still function. We passed through town heading to the funeral home. when I saw the flower shop. Stop! I screamed, the outburst taking the driver and the passengers by surprise. The limo stopped almost perfect with the door to the flower shop. My mother asking what was wrong. But nothing was wrong, I just needed money. My father pulled out his wallet, handing me a 50. I walked into the shop, alone, heading to the counter. "Hello, miss." The florist smiled. I didn't return it though. I couldn't. "Can I get 4 red roses, please?" I asked. "Oh, I'm so sorry, we ran out. Today our whole shipment went to a funeral." She glanced down, noticing my black outfit. "I'm so sorry." Her eyes showed pity on my behalf. "Do you have any roses?" I questioned, not caring for her sorrow. "No, I'm so sorry," she said again before what looked like a thought popped into her brain. "Well, I do have a bouquet of roses," she said, taping her chin. "I will be right back." She spoke loudly, heading to the back of her shop. I stood eyeing the greenhouse, feeling nothing. Well, someone special ordered theses and then never came to get them. She was holding a small vase, carrying 4 black roses. Placing them on the counter, she gestured to the bouquet. "This is all I have." I took the vase, handing her the 50. She gave me my change and I left without a word. Taking 1 flower from the group, I handed it to the driver to place up front. We continued our drive, stopping at the funeral home. A closed casket, a beautiful eulogy, a day filled with pain. The sun baked my skin while we sat listening to the preacher, saying his final words before James was covered in dirt. I stood there as the diggers covered his casket. Dina stayed, our arms linked as we watched. The black rose still pinched between my finger and thumb. After the final toss of the earth, the diggers left, leaving me and Dina to our thoughts. I walked to his grave, placing the black rose on the heap of dirt. Pressing my left hand into the soil, my legs gave way, allowing my knees to hitting the ground. Touching my lips, "Remember our last moment I will cherish for a lifetime." The first tear slipped down my cheek as the stream began to grow. I felt the ghost of his lips caressing mine, leaving a haunted kiss. Searching Eros POV. Feeling bored with myself, I began to think of my little vixen. She was going to be my prized succubus. The perfect combination, sweet and innocent, but also a wicked dark side. Souls like hers don't come around very often, and when they do, you have yourself the perfect demon. Once my teeth penetrate her soft flesh, she will start to change, becoming what I most desire. My loyal servant, collecting and corrupting lust souls. What she doesn't know is, I'm one of the 7 kings of hell. The king of lust, ruler of sexual desire. Eshma is the king of wrath. He isn't as old as me though. Making me stronger, only Satan himself can beat me. For he is the oldest son. The leader of hell, the ruler of pride, the dark angel of music. We fight for damnation to bastardize as many souls as we can. But the jackass upstairs keeps saving them. But not this time I'm going to get what's mine. She will be my loyal servant, my second in command, my plaything. My little vixen, where are you? I thought, appearing in the depth of darkness. Her clock read 3:01 a.m. Ooh, how I love the witching hour, it calls to me. I stepped next to her bed, looking down upon her sleeping form. She looked like a mess, smelling nice but needed to clean her face. When I noticed bruising on her cheek, I ran my fingers softly through her hair, finding stitches upon her head. What has my little Rosie been doing? Taking my other hand, I placed my fingertips to her scalp. In order for my succubus to be born, I need both Desire and Rosie to be present. I dove into her mind with ease, allowing me to haunt her dreams. I didn't speak, I didn't want her to know I was there. I needed to find Desire before I woke my Rosie. Tunneling deeper into her mind, I'm farther than I have ever been. Almost like stepping out of her screenplay, I walked into the darkness. And with that darkness appeared a door. I took hold of the handle, opening it wide. I took a step in. The door stayed wide open, allowing access to both minds. That's when I saw her. She looked absolutely stunning in her element, coated in blood, stabbing voluptuous. I walked closer, finally pulling her attention to me. She stood wearing a skin-tight white shirt, with a black leather jacket around her waist, hugged tight jean shorts. Her skin, coated in dark red blood, splattered along her flesh. She looked stunning. She smirked, noticing my eyes roam her figure. Like what you see, she said with a smirk, cocking her brow. I very much do. I whistled back. Desire is more than human. She was born to be a demon, and I was here to make her dreams come true. Looks like you have been a busy girl, I chastised, waltzing around her. She smiled, knowing I was checking her out. I have, she cooed. Killed 2 more. She proudly spoke. 2? I questioned, confused. I only see Lucua's dead body. Lucua's and who? I asked, holding an intense gaze with this goddess. James, she whispered into my ear, giving me the largest tooth-showing smile a demon can give. Really? I quipped. Show me. I needed the proof. She stepped back, turning her head to Lucua's. His body disappeared, revealing James's dead body, his chest punctured by a tree's limb. Impressive. Making it look like an accident is no easy task. But she was a born killer, so this doesn't surprise me. Well, I wanted to make him suffer. I hissed, feeling anger course through my veins. He took what was mine. I said through gritted teeth. I am yours, Eros baby. She sweetly whispered to my other ear. I killed him for you, she seductively stated. And he suffered. She cooed. Her teeth pressed to my ear, telling me she was smiling at her triumph. How? How would she have made him suffer? Right before he died, I let Rose see him take his last breath. She cheered with excitement, sauntering towards his dead body. Feeling such fire burn within, my claws grew, sharpening the edging of my fingertips. My horns began to elongate. Its ribbed surface pushed through my skull, showing my true form. The hair on my forehead covered my eyes, as the silver in my eyes shined. You what? I shouted in a deep demonic bass, causing her to turn startled. My sharp teeth clinking as I shouted, as if prison chains hitting a wall. That tortured Rose. Not him. I bellowed, angry at her stupidity. How dumb could she be, smart enough to kill and not get caught, but not smart enough to know she is breaking her other half. That I need. Listen to me good, I ordered in a stern voice, stomping to her, gripping her bicep with force. I need Rosie just as much as I need you. I spat, squeezing her arm harder, earning a whimper. I was rough, pushing her around. Stop breaking her, I hissed in anger, throwing her to the side. How dare she? I know exactly what she is trying to do. She is trying to weaken Rose, force her behind the door so Desire can run free. She really is a wicked little thing. Without warning, Desire pounced at me, a large blooded blade in her hand. A cut to my forearm grabbed my attention. This bitch was angering me more and more with every minute. Fury flew from her energy as she began to attack me, fighting with all her will. And here I'm in her world. I can only do as she allows. She's not mine. Desira, I boomed, echoing throughout the mind maze. But she didn't stop. She pushed me farther until my body left the door, leaving me in Rosie's mind. That's when Rose appeared, standing next to me. Get out, she shouted, throwing my body backward. She was rejecting me. Leave, she screamed, sending me flying out of her mind, leaving me standing over her empty bed. Rose stood by her window, curtains flowing within the night breeze. I hope you enjoyed your time, she hissed, because it's the last one you will ever get. She threatened. Beginning to laugh, I filled the room with my mockery. But my amusement was short-lived. Stopping me dead in my tracks, she mumbled the only words that could cast me from her home. In the name of God, I command you to leave. That motherfucker's grace burns worse than any hellfire. His command is like being bull-wiped 1,000 times. I felt pain and anger course through me, but I had to leave. Became too much. But this is far from over. I'll be back, princess, just you wait. I cursed her. Fire fighting fire. To the depths of hell I go.